So if you're in your error emotions, how do you even recognise that there's truth out there? Like if you're rejecting truth, but how do you know it's truth?
The truth is always without pain. So whenever I'm in an error-based emotion, there's always pain and suffering associated with it. So as soon as I actually get into the truth-based emotion, there will no longer be that same pain and suffering associated.
So could you say that whenever I'm feeling pain, then there's a truth I'm not seeing?
Yes. And that's telling you that. The pain is telling you that. The suffering is telling you that. Now, I'm not suggesting, though, that it's the pain of the emotional release, because obviously when you're in an emotional release, you are releasing the pain, so obviously during that phase you will feel the pain. But I'm talking about the pain where you stay in long-term pain without getting released, long-term suffering without it being released, then obviously there's a truth I am not facing and I'm refusing to face emotionally within myself. Does that make sense?
And that would mean that your law of attraction wasn't changing?
That's correct. Your law of attraction is the measurement by which we know things will change. So the issue that many of us face is that we start processing emotion, but we seem to process the same emotion. So you start processing one emotion, let's say it's an emotion of unworthiness or something like that, and then every single day you seem to feel unworthy and nothing seems to change. Now, if nothing is changing, you're not dealing with the cause. It's quite simple, right? If nothing's changing, you're not dealing with the cause, you're dealing with the effect. So you need to look deeper into the cause. What I've had to do a lot is to look at myself a lot more honestly in those situations. And what I've found is we often use our fear as an excuse to not feel the cause. The causal emotion, whatever the causal emotion is. Remember, it could be shame, it could be unworthy. Let's replace that and call that the cause or the causal emotion. The causal emotion being the emotion that creates our law of attraction. Right? And if I refuse to feel that, I will never ever release that emotion from me, and that will be the creator of my law of attraction. So, I could actually decide inside of myself that if I can stay in this state and justify to myself the reason why I don't want to feel that. And that's a very damaging place to be for yourself. Never justify your own fear. Never justify your own anger. If you justify your own anger and justify your own fear, you are never going to feel the underlying causal emotion that creates your law of attraction. Does that make sense? And when I say justify it, I don't mean don't feel it. I mean stop telling yourself that it's just, that it's right, and have this righteous rage. You know what I mean? We need to stop doing this righteous rage thing. We need to feel that we're allowed to have rage, we're allowed to experience the rage, and sometimes you need to, because a lot of it is childhood buried rage that you need to release, and a lot of it's childhood buried anger and also childhood buried fear. We need to experience it, but don't justify it and live in it. That's what we need to stop doing. Now, what often happens is because we now are in this state where we refuse to feel the causal emotion and we justify using some technique, many times it's intellectual denial, which is really just covering over the emotional fear of the emotion. Because we're in this state, we reject the truth out of hand. Like, whenever the truth comes to us, it's just rejected. And when we're in this state, we are going to automatically feel that any truth that hits us is judgmental. Does that make sense? So while you're in this state where you're refusing to feel your own causal emotion or justifying through fear, terror or anger or rage or any of those other justifications that we'll have to not feel this causal emotion, what we're actually doing is we're creating a permanent state of judgment towards every bit of truth that comes our direction. And this is a very dangerous place to be. if you want to progress, that is. Because in this state of judgment, you can turn anything good into something bad and justify your not receiving it. Does that make sense? Anything. You can turn anything. Like, somebody comes and gives you a gift. You have a causal emotion to feel about it, and you don't want to feel about it, so what you do is you have a judgment. The causal emotion might be, oh, it's wonderful to receive a gift, but I don't believe any gift is given unconditionally. Let's say that's the emotion inside. And so what I do is I'm given a gift. The person who's giving it is giving it without any conditions, and yet I get the gift and I go, I wonder what they wanted. How did I come to that conclusion? That might not be what they might have had a pure desire to give me this gift, right? And yet I'm going, what do they want now from me? What am I doing? I have just judged their action because I refuse to feel my causal emotion, which is any gift has attachments to it. My belief inside of myself that any gift has attachments to it. Does that make sense? Microphones, please. Always microphones so that we can record this.
And that's because one's making the external world responsible for the internal world?
Not just making it responsible, they're making it to blame.
Yes.
To blame.
Yes.
So, yeah, they're
so
basically...
one's not taking responsibility for what one's feeling, they're making their external world...
Yeah. So my causal emotion is no gift, in the example I gave, my causal emotion is no gift ever comes without attachments. So in other words, I have no belief in unconditional love inside of myself, right? And many of us grow up like this, right? Where we have no belief in unconditional love inside of ourselves. And so what do we then do? We project to the world, nobody out there is unconditionally loving. That's what, and so we receive the gift, and the person who's given it may feel like total unconditional love for you in the gift, and yet you're going, oh, I wonder what they want. And you've got this negative judgment going back out at that person, by the way. It's a judgment of that person saying that person it's impossible for that person to be unconditional with this gift. That's what you're really saying, and that's a judgment of the person. Peter?
And they're not understanding the law of attraction either.
Not at all. No. There's a lot of laws they're not understanding when they do it. Yeah.